Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you to the Board of Appeals, and we'll call to order the 339th meeting of the City of Laurel Board of Appeals. May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Whitley, Mr. Lee,
Present.
Mrs. Les,
Present.
Mrs. Collins, Chairwoman Chanat.
Here.
You have a quorum, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you. Item number 2 on our agenda this evening is the approval of the minutes from September 22nd. Are there any amendments or corrections or any discussions? If not, may I have a motion?
Yes, Madam Chair. I make a motion that we approve the minutes as read and accepted into the record.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Collins.
I abstain. I was not present at that meeting.
Oh, did Mrs. Les second?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Mrs. Les,
Yes.
Mrs. Collins,
Abstain.
Chairwoman Chanat.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, we have a second approval of the minutes. We had an executive session at the last meeting, which we hadn't had in years. And so we also have to have those minutes approved or amended. May I have any recommendations or a motion?
I make a motion that those minutes be approved also, and I think the staff did a great job capturing our intent of the executive session, so thank you for that. I make the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Les,
Yes.
Mrs. Collins,
Abstain.
Chairwoman Chanat.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. All right, on to the good stuff. Item number 4, special exception application number 863-9701 Fort Meade Road, Suite 200, filed by Shadow of the Almighty Ministries. May we have a reading of the record, please?
Yes, good evening. Special exception application number 863 was filed on August 15, 2016 by the Shadow of the Almighty Ministries, requesting approval to operate a house of worship located at 9701 Fort Meade Road, Suite 200, Laurel, Maryland 20707. The property is zoned commercial general. Under date of September 8, 2016, a memorandum asking for comments was sent to the following city departments: Department of Public Works, Police Department, Department of Parks and Recreation, Fire Marshal, Chief Building Official Office. None of the city departments found any issues with the request, provided that the use does not operate during the hours that the Amish market is open. Also on September 8, 2016, the application and the cover letter asking for comments were also sent to the following agencies: Maryland State Highway Administration, Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission, Prince George's County Health Department, Maryland Department of Planning, the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, Prince George's County Department of Public Works and Transportation. Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission is the only agency to respond, commenting that the impact of the proposal would be negligible. On October 28, 2016, a letter explaining the nature of the application and advising of the scheduled public hearings regarding the application before the Planning Commission and the Board of Appeals was sent by certified mail to all contiguous property owners. All return receipts were received. A memorandum from the City of Laurel Planning Commission to the Board of Appeals dated November 16, 2016, read as follows. At the regular meeting on the City of Laurel Planning Commission held on November 15, 2016, the following action was taken on the subject zoning application. On motion by Mr. Welford, seconded by Mr. Kish, and carried on a roll call vote by all other members present, the Planning Commission recommended that the City of Laurel Board of Appeals grant special exception application number 863 as presented in the technical staff report. The file contains a certificate of publication verifying that this application and public hearing was advertised in the November 24, 2016 issue of the Prince George's Centennial. The file contains an affidavit signed by the applicant attesting that a zoning sign has been placed on the subject property and has remained and shall remain until a decision is reached by the Board of Appeals. This concludes the reading of the file, Madam Chairwoman. Therefore, the applicant, Shadow of the Mighty Ministries, is seeking special exception approval to operate the house of worship in a commercial general zone located at 9701 Fort Meade Road, Suite 200. As stated earlier, the shopping center is zoned commercial general. The subject property, known as Storage Village Shopping Center, was annexed into the city in 2014, Charter Resolution number 166, Annexation 2-2014. The church will also provide other services to their members, which include Bible study, prayer meetings, counseling, and mentoring programs. The church has not conducted any weddings nor funerals. However, if they do tend to operate such in the future, they will ensure that the times do not interfere with the hours of operation with the Amish market. The Dutch Amish market, which operates Thursday through Saturday and operates Thursday 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., Friday 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., and Saturday 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. The proposed agreement not to operate during the same time as the Amish market will help eliminate any parking and traffic issues that possibly could occur on site. According to the code, section 20-16.5, scheduled parking requirements requires 1 parking space per 4 seats in the main auditorium and 1 parking space per 4 seats other rooms occupied at the same time as the main auditorium. The House of Worship plans to have a 100-seat auditorium, and that will require 25 parking spaces on site. The site has a total of 203 parking spaces. The proposed House of Worship meets the criteria for granting a special exception according to Section 20-21.1, and staff recommends special exception application number A63 is approved with the following conditions. The applicant shall obtain a City of Laurel use and occupancy permit. The applicant shall not operate during the following hours when the Dutch market is open: Thursday 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., Friday 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., and Saturday 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions of staff at the moment?
Yes, I do have one. I'm
Mr.
sorry,
Lee.
I was making some notes.
That's all right.
I read this diligently, and I support the House of Worship, of course, but I do have some questions of the parking situation over there. And that is, did the staff consider amending the times so that the church would be allowed to, meaning a 15-minute layover? What I'm getting at is not having the cars come in prior to the Dutch market closing, so that they start taking on spaces in the same. So is there any way we can figure out a cushion so that we don't have that traffic backed up like it sometimes get back on Laurel Meade Road? That is an issue already, and I could see that conflicting. And my concern is that if we're very detailed, I'm fine with that. But social meetings and community meetings have a way of creeping over, and then we will have a mess. So did we think about that?
We did look at that situation intently. We spoke with the applicant and the different departments, the fire marshal, the police department. We all were concerned about the traffic and circulation, and we wanted to ensure that the church didn't operate. So originally they were planned to have midweek service at the same day that the Amish market was open, but they changed their day to Wednesday, which is a day that the Amish market is closed. So the only days so far that they're going to be operating as of right now is on Wednesdays and Sundays.
That was something that was missing in the report, which I was kind of looking for, was some type of timetable as to when they were going to operate or have services or what have you. And again, we certainly would welcome any house of worship, but that is a very congested area. Would the city have any recourse if, forgive me, if the church abused the privileges of being there?
Yes, ma'am. In the event that if the church or the house of worship is found to be operating in the same time frame as the Amish market being open, the city can revoke their special exception approval.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think, I'm not positive, there's someone signed up for item number 3, but we don't have an item number 3, so it might be item number 4, the church. Anthony? Yes, sir. Would you like to come? Are you here to talk about the church?
Actually, if there are questions that need to be addressed, then I'll get to them.
Okay. Would you like, Anthony? Adinikinju. All right. Does anybody have any questions?
No, Madam Chair, the staff answered it to my satisfaction.
All right. Thank you very much, then. Is there anything you'd like to add? You're just here if we have questions.
Can I just ask something?
Certainly.
What about on a Saturday, they mentioned like a wedding or a special occasion? What would be the time frame that you would?
Would you come to the podium, sir, and would you give us your name and address for the record?
If that comes in, we will make sure that we do not operate around the time that the Amish market is operating. But right now, we are mainly concerned with Sundays and Wednesdays. So if it happens that there's going to be anything on Saturday in the future, we'll make sure at least maybe give an hour at least, for the Amish market to go before we start anything.
Right.
So
And how many members do you have of your church, do you know?
actually, right now, our membership is like maybe 50 or less than that, but we plan to grow, so that's why we put it like 100.
Okay. Again, would you mind giving us your name for the record?
Anthony Adenikinchu.
Okay. And your address, sir?
Address, the church address,
No, your address.
4704 Bell Trace, Bowie, MD20720.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Yes, Madam Chair. With that being said, and thank you for bringing that up, I did have that as a concern. I would like the record amended, if possible, that we be specific that if you have events on Saturday, that you cannot schedule them until after the farmers market closes. That is a huge concern of ours, and it's a huge concern of the residents in that area, and traffic is already a problem. So this has nothing to do with your church. It has everything to do with the problems we already incur there. And so if the exception can be amended, so that we are clear that any events, because weddings will happen, funerals will happen, any of those things, celebrations will happen,
Right.
that those are scheduled after the Dutch farmers market closes. I don't want what I'm trying to eliminate is gray area. if you
Gray
can
areas. No,
understand.
it needs to be in black and white. We have to have this so that there aren't any gray areas.
Yeah, that's understood.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Is there any more discussion on this special exception? Or, oh dear, where's that motion thing? Shall we make a motion?
Yes, I hereby move that we adopt the findings of fact and conclusion of law as outlined in the technical staff report and move approval of application number 863
With
the suggested amendments.
stated times of operations. Okay. May I have a second?
A second.
Thank you.
Mr. Lee, did you want to make the motion to include the resolution, or we'll have to amend it?
I thought that was separate, but I can do it both together if the staff says that's okay.
Okay, we're gonna have to amend because of the change for the hour between if there's a wedding or anything and when the Amish market operates. We're gonna have to amend the resolution so that won't go onto the next agenda.
Yes.
If I might add, necessarily, Sarah is correct, Ms. Green, I'm sorry, is correct. However, if you make a motion to approve the resolution as amended, that would give staff the latitude to make it, and then you can move forward with that tonight.
Okay.
All right.
Then I apologize, Madam Chair. I hereby move that we approve resolution number 16-04-BOA as amended.
Yes.
So staff will work together to make sure that change is in the resolution so it's ultimately signed.
Okay.
Okay? But it will be amended to reflect the condition that you've already stated.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then we'll just need a second.
Do you want to second it again?
I'll second. Sorry.
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Collins,
Yes.
Mrs. Les,
Yes.
Chairwoman Chanot,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. Welcome to the community. Okay, so now we aren't going to do the resolution, are we? We're going to go on to a special exception. Okay, item number 9 is special exception application number 864-1 2nd Street filed by Verizon Wireless. May I have a reading of the record, please?
Yes, good evening. Special exception application number 864 was filed on September 26, 2016 by Verizon Wireless, requesting approval to install 12 panel antennas and an equipment platform with cabinets on the roof of the building known as the Quality Inn and Suites, located at 1 2nd Street, Laurel, Maryland, zone commercial general. On October 7, 2016, a letter explaining the nature of the application and advising of the scheduled public hearings on the application before the Planning Commission and the Board of Appeals was sent by certified mail to all contiguous property owners. All return receipts were received except for Sahib Fakara at 44 Washington Boulevard, Laurel, Maryland. Under date of October 13, 2016, a memorandum asking for comments was sent to the following city departments: Department of Public Works, Police Department, Department of Parks and Recreation, Office of Fire Marshal and Permit Services. The Office of Fire Marshal and Permit Services responded stating that the applicant shall provide a letter from a structural engineer stating that the roof can't support the load. The Department of Public Works provided the following comments. The building on which the antenna is proposed fronts and is accessed from northbound U.S. Route 1 with additional access on southbound U.S. Route 1, which are state-maintained roadways. The applicant is responsible for any state permits and site access improvements if required by the state. No improvement is proposed in the city's public right-of-way at this time. However, if any utility cuts are performed on city streets, the restoration work must follow the city standards that require the permanent patches to the cut area to be 2-inch mill and overlay from curb to curb with a minimum of 25 feet in each direction of the cut. The scope of the restoration work will be determined by this department. Also, on October 13, 2016, the application and cover letter asking for comments were also sent to the following agencies: Maryland State Highway Administration, Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission, Prince George's County Health Department, Maryland Department of Planning, Baltimore Gas and Electric Company, the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, Prince George's County Department of Public Works and Transportation, Verizon, Prince George's County's Public Schools Pupil Accounting and School Boundaries, Prince George's County's Public Schools Department of Capital Programs. None of the agencies had issues or comments regarding the request. A memorandum from the City of Laurel Planning Commission to the Board of Appeals dated November 16, 2016 read as follows. At the regular meeting of the City of Laurel Planning Commission held on November 15, 2016, the following action was taken on a subject zoning application. On motion from Mr. Kish, seconded by Mr. Welford, and carried on a roll call vote by all the members present, the Planning Commission recommended that the City of Laurel Board of Appeals grant special exception application number 864 as presented in the technical staff report. The file contains a certificate of publication verifying that this application and public hearing was advertised in the November 24, 2016 issue of the Prince George's Sentinel. The file contains an affidavit signed by the applicant attesting that a zoning sign has been placed on the subject property and has remained and shall remain until a decision is reached by the Board of Appeals. That concludes the reading of the file, Madam Chairwoman. Therefore, the applicant, Joshua Shikola, on the behalf of Verizon Wireless, is seeking a special exception approval to install 12 panel antennas as well as an equipment platform and cabinets on the roof of the Quality Inn & Suites building located at 1 2nd Street. The property was constructed in 1964 and is zoned commercial general. The property is bordered by Howard County to the north and commercial general and commercial village properties to the east, west, and south. Staff recommends approval for the special exception application number 864 with the following conditions. The applicant shall provide a letter from a structural engineer that states the roof can support the load of the proposed antenna equipment, and the applicant shall obtain appropriate City of Laurel permits prior to the installation of the antennas. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of staff?
No.
Okay. Thank you. On our sign-up sheet this evening, we do have a number of people that are representing this special exception, Verizon Wireless. Hi, how are you? Would you like to give us your...
Good evening. I think everyone who signed up is with me,
Yes.
with the applicant. For the record, Greg Diamond, I am Verizon Wireless's local counsel with law offices in Bethesda, Maryland at 7500 Woodmont Avenue. With me this evening are Joshua Shikola, who is an employee of Maztec Network Solutions, working on behalf of Verizon Wireless as a real estate consultant and zoning specialist. Michael Fisher with Millennial Engineering, who is an expert in radio engineering. and Jake Torone, a professional engineer, senior structural engineer at Morris and Ritchie Associates. And they're here to help me and answer questions that you may have about the application, if you have any. What I want to say is staff really put together quite an excellent staff report. The combination of the reporting from all the agencies, which is part of the report, as well as running through all the elements required of the zoning ordinance, which is mixed in with the answers provided by Verizon Wireless, and the application really kind of addresses all the issues. I can run through them really quickly, or you could give me a nod and say, there seems like there's no problem here, and I could save 10 minutes.
The only concern is the weight, if it could be.
Absolutely.
This
And
is
so-
a density of equipment, isn't it?
Actually, the antennas and things like that really aren't that heavy. The 270 square foot equipment platform, we have our engineer here tonight, and of course, when he applies for building permits, it will have all of the certifications necessary to establish that the roof loading will be met accurately and according with all professional engineering standards. So Verizon Wireless will comply with all of the conditions that staff and the Planning Commission recommended.
Yeah, that's a pretty old building, right? That was the old Howard Johnson, I believe, years and years ago. It's
Yes, it
pretty old,
was,
yeah.
yeah. It was probably built stronger too then.
Probably built stronger,
The
yes,
good news
than
is
today.
that we've got an engineer who's studied it again and will, set up the
Yeah.
the feet of the platform in a way that it's, adequately supported for loading.
Yeah, and safety-wise, we don't have any issues with these anymore?
No, we had quite an education with them,
Yes,
so I'm fine.
yes. Right, we've had an education on the safety issue, so that's out. And I guess the staff's biggest concern, and everyone's, is just the security of the roof, and the integrity of the roof. So if you have your people that are going to make sure that's taken care of,
Yes.
I'm not sure if we have any other questions.
No, I don't, Madam Chair.
I'm not going to take up any more of your time. Thank you very much.
All right. Does staff need to advise us of anything else on this issue that you're aware of? No? Okay, fine. If there's no more discussion, then may we have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve resolution number 16-05, approving the exception as the city recommended for the antennas.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Lee?
Excuse me, yes.
Mrs. Les?
Yes.
Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
Chairwoman Chanot?
Yes.
Motion carries.
There you go. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming. When do you expect them to go in? I didn't ask you that.
Construction.
Up and running. Up and running.
We plan on doing it by February.
Okay. Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
We need a motion on the resolution.
Motion on the resolution. Have you got
The
that?
first motion on 864.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I hereby move that we adopt the findings of fact
Yeah.
and conclusion of law as outlined in the technical staff report and move approval of application number 864.
Okay.
And the resolution.
And the resolution number 16-05.
Fine. Okay.
So I'll just start combining them. I got it. Okay. So we have to revote. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Mrs. Les?
Is it?
It's we need a second.
Second.
Okay. There we go.
Third.
Mrs. Les?
Yes.
Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
Chairwoman Chanot?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, next item, 14, special exception application number 865, 154 Lafayette Avenue, Suite C, filed by Big City Body Art. May I have a reading of the record, please?
Sure. Good evening again. Special exception application number 865 was filed on September 29, 2016 by Big City Body Art requesting approval to operate a tattoo and body piercing studio at 154 Lafayette Avenue, Suite C, Laurel, Maryland, 20707. The property is zoned ICS, Industrial Commercial Services. On October 7, 2016, a letter explaining the nature of the application and advising of the scheduled public hearings regarding the application before the Planning Commission and the Board of Appeals was sent by certified mail to all contiguous property owners. All return receipts were received, except for Paul Woods and Albin Stumpa. 1104 Bill Place, Laurel, Maryland 20707. Under date of October 11, 2016, a memorandum asking for comments was sent to the following city departments: Department of Public Works, Police Department, Department of Parks and Recreation, Fire Marshal Chief Building Official Office. On October 12, 2016, the Department of Parks and Recreation provided the following comments. Regarding the aforementioned application to seek special exception approval to operate a tattoo and piercing studio in the city, the Department of Parks and Recreation has no objection to the type of business or use of the space on Lafayette Avenue. However, the department has experience in offering services for youth and teens and typically becomes the appointed city department that helps outside groups coordinate their desire to offer mentoring programs. The Department of Parks and Recreation would like more information about the vision of setting up a local mentoring program with the city for troubled youth. The department is pleased that Big City Body Art wishes to be involved in the Laurel community through its support of local events, and that they would like to play a part in providing positive guidance to youth in the community. On October 18, 2016, the Department of Public Works provided the following comments. No improvement is proposed in the city's public right-of-way at this time. However, if any utility cuts will be performed on a city street, the restoration work must follow the city standards that require the permanent patches in the cut area and a 2-inch mill and overlay from curb to curb and a minimum of 25 feet in each direction of the cut. The scope of the restoration work will be determined by this department. This department does not provide hazard material or medical waste pickup and disposal. The applicant must provide us with a waste disposal plan as soon as possible. On October 11, 2016, the application and cover letter asking for comments were also sent to the following agencies: Maryland State Highway Administration, Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission, Prince George's County Health Department, Maryland Department of Planning, the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, Prince George's County Department of Public Works and Transportation, Baltimore Gas and Electric Company, Verizon. None of the agencies had any issues with the proposed application. A memorandum from the City of Laurel Planning Commission to the Board of Appeals dated November 16, 2016 reads as follows. At the regular meeting of the City of Laurel Planning Commission held on November 15, 2016, the following action was taken on the subject zoning application. A motion by Mr. Welford, seconded by Mr. Kish, and carried on a roll call vote by all other members present, the Planning Commission recommended that the City of Laurel Board of Appeals grant special exception application number 865 with the conditions as presented in the technical staff report. The file contains a certification of public verifying that this application and public hearing was advertised in the November 24, 2016 issue of the Prince George's Centennial. The file contains an affidavit signed by the applicant attesting that a zoning site has been placed on the subject property and has remained and shall remain until a decision is reached by the Board of Appeals. That concludes the reading of the file, Madam Chairwoman. Excuse me. Therefore, the applicant, Big City Body Art, is seeking special exception approval to operate a tattoo and body piercing studio to be located at 154 Lafayette Avenue, Suite C. The property is zoned industrial commercial services. The site is surrounded by other industrial zones, the train tracks, and some single-family residential dwelling units. The applicant plans to operate the studio Sunday through Saturday from 12 p.m. to 9 p.m., also with appointment times on certain occasions. If approved, this will be the first tattoo and body piercing studio within the City of Laurel. The City of Laurel's Public Works Department does not pick up hazard or medical waste. The applicant has already secured a private contractor to pick up their hazardous materials from the property. A copy of the info will be transmitted to the Department of Public Works. Furthermore, in the future, the applicant will be interested in starting a local mentor program for troubled youth. Typically, the city's Department of Parks and Recreation coordinates these events, so the director would like for the company to work with the department on those efforts. The applicant understands
Bless you.
The applicant understands the requirements that comes with special exception approval and is eager to work with city staff to ensure compliance with all regulations. Furthermore, the applicant recently signed the proposed special exception regulations for body art establishments that the mayor and city council will review and adopt upcoming. Therefore, staff recommends that the City of Laurel Board of Appeals approve special exception application number 865 with the following conditions. The applicant shall comply with all applicable federal, state, and local laws, rules, and regulations, including but not limited to Occupational Safety and Health Administration and Center for Disease Control and Prevention. The applicant shall comply with the procedures outlined in the Infection Prevention and Exposure Control Plan. The applicant shall obtain a valid City of Laurel use and occupancy permit. The applicant shall ensure that all waste from tattooing and piercing is discarded in medical packing for appropriate trash pickup to be provided by a private medical waste contractor, and the applicant shall work with the Department of Parks and Recreation's director or her designee on mentoring programs, activities for troubled youth. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions, staff?
No, not at all.
All right, on our sign-up sheet, we have a gentleman, John Ryan. If you'd like to come to the podium and give us your name and address. And
Yes, ma'am. I'm John Ryan. It's 6415 Holly Marie Road in Hanover, Maryland. I'm simply here to answer any questions that the board may have.
okay, I have some. I know nothing about this. So, who oversees a tattoo parlor? I mean, does the state health commission or a health?
In the state of Maryland, ma'am, there is absolutely no regulations in the state of Maryland to oversee any kind of tattoo or piercing operation.
Really?
Which is one of our concerns, to be honest with you. In my application, I put down there, we call them scratchers. What it is these are the guys that operate out of the bathrooms at a party or the back doors of some other businesses that you just don't put out there. A lot of times we see these people come in to get their stuff fixed and repaired because they're either infected because they weren't properly done, or they're using needles on you and then just because they don't have the proper equipment to keep everything sterile.
That's scary, isn't it?
It's very scary. And when we first approached the city, we actually gave them some regulations that we want to be held accountable. I mean, we don't expect to come in here and just, take care of things. I've got kids. My kids have tattoos. I got friends that got tattoos and stuff. And I mean, health is definitely an issue. So.
No controls at all.
No, ma'am, not at all. And the staff did a great job coming up with some regulations that we feel is very fair.
Yes, the hazardous is very, very. Are there a lot of contractors that do pick up hazardous waste?
I found the one that we could use because most of the hazardous waste stuff, they want you to, like every week, they want to come pick something up. And for us, it's really based on the volume of business. I can't have them come pick up an empty bag. So I found an on-call service. So basically, they supply us with I think it's a 20-gallon bag. We fill that bag, we call them, they come pick it up and remove the materials. Again, in the state of Maryland, the only thing that anybody is required to actually put away is the needles. And you have sharps containers, which we have all of those. But in the process of tattooing, while the artist is wiping away, we have blood-stained paper towels, for instance. You just throw them in a trash bag, throw them away in the dumpster if you like. We don't choose to do that just because, again, my kids grow up around here too, so I want to keep it as clean as possible.
When you have that container full, is it kept inside? It's not put outside until it's due to be picked up?
Yes, ma'am. It's actually a cardboard box with a red biohazard bag in it that
Like
we
they
have
in the
like a
doctor's
clean
offices,
area.
right.
And then we actually have separate trash cans in each of the workstations as well. They have smaller red bags so they can dispose as they're working. And then you tie them off, and then we would call.
And how many workstations would you have there?
Right now we have 2. Hopefully, if this gets approved, we'd be able to put a third in and get going.
Were you operating this business elsewhere before?
So
Just curious.
we were over on Cherry Lane. To be frank, I mean, if we stayed at Cherry Lane, we wouldn't have this conversation. But I grew up in this city. I've told people this several times. My first job was Cook's Hardware. My Uncle Don used to run the Main Street Festival with me when I was a little boy. So I was excited about the fact I could move it back into the city. We had run into, I believe it was Marty, at one point had come over when we were on Cherry Lane and had made the comment that, this would be something, good to have. And we kind of got victim to circumstance, I think. We took the jump a little bit too soon, and when we did, it's like, oh, we're a moratorium. So there was nothing we could do. So we've been kind of hanging out for like a year, trying to go through the process and work with the city to make sure all the proper steps were in place for us to actually move forward on this.
Are you associated with the bike group there also?
Yes, ma'am. I am actually the Sergeant at Arms for the Warfighters Motorcycle Club.
Okay.
So we're a veteran nonprofit with the IRS, and I think in the Laurel leader, we just did a ride down to the Baltimore War Memorial and stuff as part of the youth mentorship program that we want to do. We are all veterans honorably discharged in that club, and they're all pretty tied, with the shop and the community area there.
Okay.
Nothing better than the sound of a Harley going down the road, that's for sure.
Questions?
Mine's just a comment. First of all, I appreciate that all you guys are veterans, and thank you guys for your service. That's important. Secondly, I'm shocked that we don't have any body substance isolation laws or regulations.
I know, I'm amazed.
On the book with that, meaning in the state for this type of operation. So hopefully we'll work with the city, and I will volunteer to do so also, and we'll draft, we'll hopefully put something together
Yes.
that protects all of the young adult citizens, anybody else that gets
Anybody.
tattoos in our city. So thank you.
Yes, sir. No problem.
Okay. Anybody? No? All right. Thank you, Mr. Ryan. I do appreciate your time.
No problem.
All right. Comments? Nothing? Everything is okay? All right, then I need a motion, please.
I make a motion that we approve application number 865 and the attached resolution number 16-06 BOA.
May I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
Mrs. Les? Chairwoman Chanat?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Well, it looks like we've concluded. Do we need to do something else, Sarah?
I'm sorry.
No, do we need to do anything else on?
No, we're
We
good.
covered everything?
Yep.
Good. In that case, we'll adjourn the meeting at 7:30?
My clock is fast.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you all, and good luck. I'm sure you'll do well.